my gal pals, my posse, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Rush. And we're going to talk about another one. This just came in for you today too, didn't it? Yeah, okay. So feel your new rhythm and the tools in your hand. The minute I said that earlier when I was asking you again about the title specifically, of course it's going to be different for each one of us, what we're going to feel into when we feel those sorts of things. But I've been having I did another recording earlier today with Jennifer Brown, and I've been having a lot of, that energetic, it's like and has weight to it for me in my hands. It has weight. I mean, I can manipulate it. So, I mean, there's all kinds of tools. and for me, for the moment, I read that out. For me, that came to my mind. But so, share with us what you felt was coming in for you with this, BZ.
Well, it's a combination of different things. I'll kind of answer the question you asked in the beginning of the last video again here. What was it? So when this one came through, I was just taking a break, but it was only a momentary break, so I could choose the place. I was leaning against a tree, and I was just kind of gazing out at a setting. There was a garden, and there were some.
Yeah, your microphone is, sweetie. Yeah, your microphone is. Yeah, sometimes I don't know why it does that, but sometimes it comes up and then it goes down, and then it comes up and then it goes down.
How's that?
Nope.
Oh, not terrific.
How's that?
No.
Just continue talking. Say again now.
I said the dogs heard me tap on it, so that worked enough.
Oh, there it goes.
It's on.
It just clicked in, yeah.
Popped up.
Okay, so I said this time I was taking a break, and I was outside leaning against a tree and just kind of gazing what was in front of me. So there were some big trees and a garden and some other stuff, and just soft. And I think I asked a question, but the question's not coming to mind. It could have been as simple as, which I do sometimes, is, show me.
Yeah.
Is there something that I'm supposed to be doing or focusing on or playing with, And so I think that may have been the question, but I'm not certain, or maybe it was more involved. Anyways, so all of a sudden I started going on well, a personal thing for me, playing with my energy creation wand, and I literally was just playing with it, where I was using it like a magic wand or a paintbrush on some of the flowers. So the flowers were 10, 15 feet away from me, but when I did it, I could send a ribbon of energy and color from the wand, and I was just playing with painting, outlining that particular flower, and then doing along the stem, and then jumping to this one, and so that was kind of my way to just take a break between the next thing I had to do. So kind of a linear, pretending, imagination sort of thing. Except that we're not in linear anymore. And those other words that I used are actually creation tools. And before any space of time had gone on, I was actually then creating, so I could then look at a space where there was just grass, and really pretty brown grass because it's been very dry. And I thought, these flowers that I've never seen before spoke to me. So I actually, with my wand, using it as an energetic brush, kind of drew an outline of where the garden was, and then painted the flowers that were appearing, in the video in my projector room, and put them out there, and they grew out there. They grew to the fact that that a butterfly came and sat on them, that I could smell the fragrance, that I could see all the colors. And anyway, so that kind of then faded, as often happens. So that faded into the background, and right in the foreground came, although I think that the conversation was happening before that, but now it was, in the foreground. So it was right here, and it's like, I was immersed in something I was doing in before, and then that was like running on the television program in the background, and the person I was having the conversation was right here, which is all me. And so again, we were talking about things to play with, not only in the course of the day and with people who are right there in my physical, but also for this conversation or some videos that I'm supposed to do for the Quantum Playground and all that kind of stuff. And what came is that since we truly are not going to a new landscape, but we are in a new landscape from the work we've already done to create that, and things are changing, the ways that we used to, and it's going to be different for everybody depending on how aware they already are of the tools that they already are using, or their ability to play with the energy that they have and energy in general, and actually use that. So that the rhythm of how we walk through life, how we interact and live, create, again, it's depending on how you hold it. The old rhythms are gone. They if they had flow, if they were a cool dance, if however metaphor you want to use it, it's all choppy, doesn't work. There is no syncopation. There's none of that. It's all just kind of stuff. And so again, that's a choice node point. To keep trying to force that, well, it used to. Why isn't it? I just need to practice, or I'm just tired, or whatever it is. And just to notice it, that's a node point and a demarcation of a new flow and path. And so to mark it, and each of us have, the way I hold it is, each of us have different rhythms and ways that we walk through the world, is a linear way to describe it. And there's a flow, there's a rhythm to that. And so now we actually choose that, and we're choosing from a whole new array of those. We're not looking at the same box of rhythms. And the other thing is that all the tools that we may have used before to do something have completely changed. So the old ones, not only, they're not just broken, they're not just not working, they're
oftentimes not even the right tool anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's kind of not just not the right tool there. That's where the not just, so not just the wrong tool, the really, really wrong tool, like the having the opposite desired effect that it used to have, wrongness of the tool.
Right.
So anyway, so that's what came into, and a conversation and an agreement to bring that forward as something to play with. And again, it's one of those things that the metaphor, the various metaphors for that in each being's life will be very different. But reading of energy or working with energy as one example is one that's particular one. I mean, they all are, but that comes to me as a particular one to pay attention to, because there's a lot of creation in that. And not only will it not work the way you thought or that it had, but you think you're going one way, which is for the way you want to go if you're using the old and stuck on the old. And so that you will have unintended consequences that are actually taking you in the opposite direction, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I'm a little confused about something. You said just now that in particular, if you work with energy, can you expound on what you said there just a little bit? In particular, are you speaking to, well, I mean, because I know the energy has changed, and not as though I was had a great goobs of experience working with energy prior anyway, but it has changed. And so, but I'd like to know a little bit more about what you meant in that.
Well, that's why I think that was right where I followed up with it, whatever your metaphor is for that. So on that particular focus, it could be, if you're meditating or you're just out, breathing with the trees, that's working with energy. You could be an energy practitioner, quote unquote. That's working with energy. You can be a doctor. That's working with energy, although depending on where your bent is, it's more linear, right? So actually, now that I think about it, that could be just about anything you do. But if you're holding it in specifically in the working with energy, so either on and this sounds silly, it just popped in my head. I think it came from the linear part of me, but that if you're, okay, it popped right back out again. So before I even said, okay, grandmother, see, that took care of itself.
Well, I'm glad that we went in that direction, though, because I think it's fair to say, first of all, and maybe a little clarifying too, for some. Specifically, would be more for those that are, new to energy, period. And that is that, well, everything is energy. You're right. Every single thing is energy. And even when we, think we're not working with energy, we are. So right. I'm glad we went there.
So, well, what I was saying that popped out was the kind of the smaller thing. But let me phrase it this way. If you're wanting to work with your own energy, whether it's meditation or to read energy or to feel energy or to play with it, it will be very helpful and feels very important if what you're using to help you as a guide to do that it be something that was created in these new energies. So don't read a 20-year-old book. If the being who wrote that book is still here and active, then go to their blog or something, or their vlog or whatever, and get something that's newly created in these energies. So maybe say the last year would be probably as far out as I would go. For something that's static in the sense that the article was written,
right?
Because it is of the energies. Now, and I say that because if you're brand new to this, you don't know how. Well, you do, so I'm proving myself wrong. But it would seem like you don't know how to engage with that energetic envelope and take these energies and marry them to that, and so then you'll get your answer. it will actually happen, but since the propensity of human in the linear is to go with, oh, well, but so-and-so said, like somehow this is the Bible and that's how you do it, rather than meeting it and having the two unfold in this now. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, it does.
So another really simple way, less accurate way to say this is that everything has changed, and the old habits and routines and flow and systems and rhythm that you use to do all manner of things are not the optimal and the most useful, producing the intended flow and outcomes available. In fact, it's actually stronger than that, but I'll leave it at that. So what do? Well, you meet yourself and you connect with yourself and you feel into what is for you, and that will be given voice to by you in various, by all the different beings in myriad ways, your new rhythm in that, and the new tools. Okay, so I just heard a couple of people ask the same question phrased slightly differently. Well, how do you do that? And if I've never really done that or know that I was doing that before, how do I do that now? Well, see previous video, pause and breathe and go meet something. Go meet whatever it is. So maybe it's something that you do for fun every day, jogging. I don't know why that popped in my head, but okay, I'll go with it, jogging. Or maybe you do some kind of artwork or something you do at work, whatever it is. And consciously, intentionally, pause and breathe and meet that, whatever it is, or a portion of that, if it's large, you want to kind of break it down. And have a conversation. Now, this may take just one time, or you may do it over the course of a morning or a day, or maybe the week, or whatever it is, again, depending on how it flows for you. And meet that where it is with a pause and a breath, and have a conversation in that you're looking to connect and notice your new rhythm, whatever that is. Don't have an attachment to anything on that. And the tools that will best serve that creation, that flow of things, and you. So it's a complementary to each of those things. So if what's something that you're looking at is a product for somebody else to avail themselves of, if it's a service, if it's in a business, if it's you working for someone else. So it could, when you look at that, there's two halves, and you're holding is what's happening. So there's two halves of that. There's the rhythm and the flow of the flow and the tools to use to do that, which creates something for, I'm just going to go with this linear term, the end user, which could be you, right? And for you as the creator. So again, and if someone says, well, I don't have my own business, but you're still a creator, even if you work for somebody else, in that moment, what you're doing is creating, it's creation. You're creating something. So that, and that has the holding of those two parts, which for the most part, in the old false construct, was absent, was never there. And as you listen to this, go with like this with your hands and hold the picture, meet the feeling of what I'm saying, of those two parts and that holding, and you will feel the two toroidal fields of those will join and click, and the syncopation and the the beautiful mirroring, and then I'm not sure of the right word. They become each other. They become one with each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just had to take that in for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I felt a new, a new rhythm within. I mean, Lisa and I did a conversation. We even called it "Everything Feels New," because it just does. I hadn't thought about the rhythm part of it though. So, and of course, I've got all kinds of new tools popping up all the time, and sometimes not even recognizing it as a tool in the moment. I suspect that's happening for a lot of us, though. Oh, that's a nice new little tool. Thank you very much. Mostly for me, the noticing has been the biggest tool to help with well, as I'm feeling into that title, that's all about the noticing of the new rhythm and the noticing of the tools and all of that for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and asking. I'm realizing that this energetic is about relationship. It's not about domination or control at all. It's really about communion that BZ was describing. It's really that give and take. It's that it's like, I guess it's how electricity works or how the breath works, there's an exchange that happens. And when you get into that flow, I don't know, there's just something about following where it takes you. There's like a surrendering to it, because like this afternoon I was asked in my meditation to just notice the sensations I was having and like colors or smells, just notice what I was feeling. And then I got, if something appears, go with it, like allow and go with the flow. And I had never thought of it in that fashion before, because I guess I realized in that moment that sometimes I force a thing. I am more about forcing my will sometimes. The way that I go into meditation sometimes in the past had a sort of just a different flavor that I wanted to change what is, and so I was going to put my will out there. And I don't know, there's just a different, I don't come to the table with any strong wills. It's more fluid and flowing now. And like if something highlights, I'll notice it, because that's the highlighting piece. Doesn't matter, it's going to highlight. It's whether I notice it or not. That was a good point. So when I do notice it and I go with it and I follow, it's a flow and it's a path and it's a journey. So anyway, the energy that's happening now is very excited to play, and it's looking forward to to my participation, because it's greeting me with such enthusiasm. So there's something about that, asking questions and having that interaction that is really sticking with me about, as far as discovering new tools and the newness that's happening, is that I feel as though I spent a lot of time falling in love with myself, And now I'm falling in love with everything else as myself. And it's kind of the same journey, but it's different at the same time. I don't know. It's all very exciting.
Well, one of the things you brings up for me that, so I'm going to say this and hold it however you want. So
Okay.
you are meeting each other. So the reason I said hold it however you want, because you're a being, and
Yes.
sure what it is you're meeting, but it doesn't matter because it is
Yes.
an entity, a being that can be met. So you're meeting each other and you are subject to one another, which for the most part is something that has not occurred. And so what I noticed in just the pretty small moments of time that I've spent with this over the last I don't know, 100 hours, maybe a couple days, maybe more, maybe 4 or 5 days, is that everything is vastly different, and everything is and this is not a good word, but vastly shifted in the amount of colors, the range of, and the vibrancy of the colors, in the notes that are there, in the richness and the diversity and the complexity and the luminosity of not just the colors, but all of whatever anything else is. So it could be looking at my hand, it could be looking at the bark on a tree, it could be noticing, if you ever notice your icebox has a certain rhythm, how it turns on and turns off or whatever, and okay, it's still an icebox, but it has a different character to it. It has a different, everything does. Everything is, it's maybe you could say as if you'd seen it for the very first time or experienced it or finally actually noticed whatever it is, whether it's fur or a leaf or looking at a building, looking at and actually noticing the structure of a building, or some machine that you've always used at work, and all of a sudden, for me, everything, take the most sophisticated on the market HD TV, just to use it as a metaphor, and kick that up like 30, 40, 50 notches squared, right? And you might start to have a slight indication of what I'm talking about. And so every facet of every individual everything has changed in that. And so the fun is, the play, if you choose to do it, is the how-to is, so all of those at the same time, is you start where you meet each other and you're subject to one another. And in that space, the phrase that came to mind is new worlds open up. So they're already there. We just never noticed them before, and they are opening up. And they're fully constructed, and we are decoding them so we can kind of, what's the thing if you have, it's like a TV product commercial where you put stuff under the bed, it's a cube, and you can put like sweaters in it, and it's big, and then you pull all the air out and it goes down those
a vacuum bag.
something like that. Well, it's the reverse of that. So all of that is all there, and as we meet it and become have that meaning, have that connection, but it's beyond just connection, are subject to it, it actually opens and comes into it's new worlds that are opening up. And people will hold that in different ways depending on what it conjures for them or their past experience or whatever it is. And they're amazing new worlds. So that could be like when you eat just a bite of a peach, to something at work, to something new moving, it could be, it is, it could be, and it is everything, depending what you're focusing on.
Agreed.
So it's kind of taken the coolness, the fantasticalness, the newness to, well, language has been failing for a long time, but to a whole new level, and it's instantaneous. And the more you notice it, the more you play with it, the more you meet it, let it behold for you, you can then meet and be subject to one another in each facet of it. So what's happening, because someone just said, well, I understand that for the part that I'm looking at because I'm meeting something, but I'm just me. No, because in that meeting of one another, in that being subject to one another, it opens up whole new worlds within you. There are facets, there are components, there are, the words are just woefully inaccurate, that open up within you instantly.
For me, I think part of the reason that I might have struggled as much as I have in the past with comprehending a lot of what I now feel like I've comprehended, some, at least part of it, is the with my aperture so small and not even being able to consider the fact that, I didn't have it in my vocabulary or in my thought processes in regards to multidimensionality. And that sounds really far out there and very, very wild and all of that until, well, when you break it down into those really simple terms. Multidimensionality can be explained for me now in even a linear term for some folks. Well, you're a mother, you're a secretary, you're a nursemaid, you're a housekeeper, you're a wife, you're all of these different things. Those are dimensions of self. And what you were talking about there, just that meeting of you meeting something, opens up worlds within that you may not have even realized. For me, that's what you've just explained there. It helps to open up that comprehension of more facets of your own being that, whether through an attention, misdirection, misinformation, disinformation, not believing in self, whatever those issues have been, it was all overlooked and discounted and, maybe even shoved under the rug as woo-woo until, oh, wait a minute, just that simple act of meeting something where it is, and that those whole new worlds, not just worlds in and of themselves, but worlds of potentiality
Yes.
and possibility as well open up, and that it may not be something that you see immediately or feel immediately, although I beg to differ. I think you will. I certainly did. And it, I don't know, I just felt compelled to offer that as part of that, because I really struggled with a lot of those concepts at first. It's not something that well, we've actually been programmed and conditioned right out of thinking about those things. So,
By design, absolutely, yeah. Because it's very dangerous. Very, 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 very dangerous. And only dangerous for a very select few.
It feels, it feels to me like it's a lot easier now. And
Yes.
I actually don't feel it's dangerous anymore either. Actually, I feel as though it's, maybe just for me, but I feel that it's more dangerous not to be doing this sort of, not to be meeting things where they are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Exploring that potential and that possibility and right.
You actually you got a double on. I'm not sure if I'm using this right, but you have a double entendre there. So when I was saying dangerous, it was dangerous for those who run the false construct, right? And for us, we were just complicit, so we went along with it. And the reason it was dangerous for them, because then you would be waking up, and that would shoot that whole game. Jig would be up, right? So then you said, I actually feel it's the opposite now. It's dangerous not to. And you're absolutely right about that. It is dangerous. And that now the dangerous not to is for us. Right? And you said before that it's not dangerous anymore. So here's that twist. So for those who it was dangerous for before, it's not dangerous anymore because we're in the moment of the coming out of the rubble. We're in this moment, and so it's actually it's not dangerous for them anymore because we're all in the same trajectory now. We may hold it differently, and there may be a different polarizedness to it, whether it's service or self-service, but it's shifted in that it's all in the same direction. So that was very cool how you saw both those flips and flipped them all. Yeah.
Well, I just, that's, I don't know. I'm not really clear if I followed along with exactly what you said, but thank you. But it really was something that I struggled with, but I feel like the more, the more one trusts oneself, that's a big one, too. When you just give what you get, or move as you feel nudged to move, and stop discounting myself. That was the biggest thing, to stop discounting myself at every turn. It gets a little easier to hold it, in a much more empowering manner for myself. All of it. Yeah.
And a couple of questions that came up in the space now, because people are feeling into what we're talking about, and a couple are going, well, how do I use it? I don't know. Well, not quite sure how I do it, but how do I use this? Or, okay, one just said, what does it do for me?
That is a very large answer.
Yeah. How much time?
Yeah. How long have you got?
So maybe this is one of those ones that this is, like a pre-primer on this, and to plant that seed and to play with those worlds opening up, and again start by noticing. But I can give you the very short answer to that is it is sublimely delicious squared, and it changes everything because you have now stepped into the change of everything. And even that which you held as limits, which were only perceived limits, they're gone. They've all been smashed. They've all been dematerialized. And you will see, just as you're seeing multidimensionality showing all over the place, you're going to see that revealing itself all over the place. Worlds open up instantly in whatever it is, and think of the combinations and the permutations of the possibilities and all that kind of stuff. And since everything is pure potentiality and possibility, and there's another thing that you meet with and you open up worlds with, because when you as a creator being meets with that and is subject to one another, worlds literally open up. Literally open up, and all of the unfolding within that. And then you might get someone else who comes to play at the same moment. Well, now you have, again, an exponentialness to that world's opening up. It's endless. And so maybe one very linear thing of, what do you do with that is, for some who may have been fretting about taking out the trash or other things, in the new creation of stuff, right there, those are solutions. Those are new modes, methods, modalities, structures, systems, all that right there, that you just pop them open right there, and you can flow with it, and all of the resources, ingredients, all the kind of ways you put with that simply come into being, and then you're connecting with them. So that would be a linear one. Another one from a more quantum aspect to answer that question would be that you dive into yourself fully conscious as you dive in, and I'm having a hard time translating the image, but there's full alignment and connection with your soul, completely in you, completely connected, and steering the ship as a linear metaphor. In that moment, you are. Such a struggle. As you dive in to it, there is no how. There is no learning curve. There is no what, when, where, how, so to speak, so to say, because you dive into it. So you are it. And that separation, that just out of sync, maybe lack of syncopation, so different ways you can hold it, does not exist anymore because there was that meeting and the subject to one another. So there is no, it's almost like, there used to be things that you could go like this, and everything is spherical, everything is toroidal. So there is no hierarchical at all, not possible, not feasible. I don't know how to say it, but does that make sense?
Well, yes, and I wanted to point out that the minute you started just then with talking about the integration and there's nothing hierarchical and that it's not possible, the frequency in my head picked up and I could barely hear you. So I just wanted to add that. and the words locked and loaded came into my head.
Yes.
When you were talking about diving in.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yes, that's actually a great pictorial metaphor. Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's so okay. Well, yeah, obviously that's something I'm supposed to be paying attention to because this is loud. Very, very loud.
Can you hear me now?
I mean, seriously, it's like cicadas going off like big time, huge. Wow.
It's packets. Part of that is packets recalibrating in all of you. It was your key and lock to unlock something very big.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. This is the second time today, actually, that I've had something big take place on camera, too, by the way. So that's pretty cool.
Well, I'd say there's a whole lot of meeting and subject to one another going on and worlds opening.
Yes, as a matter of fact, and on that lines, okay, so just to share, because I really feel you're right about that. Lisa and I had to go out and do a few things, and we went to pick up Albert from work, and we'd stopped by the grocery store on the way home. And so Lisa and I are going through the grocery store, and the reactions to us were just, I mean, there were a couple of people practically turning around, I mean, just
that did happen, yeah.
There was at least, and there was once we were sitting in the van and somebody's walking by, and Lisa said to me, she said, that guy just got some codes because he just looked and then the whole way he turned around and he's walking backwards.
And I said, he wants a second glance really bad. And she watched, and then before you know it, he went.
And we standing in line in the grocery store, we there was this an entire conversation had between myself and this little lady who was sharing that she was the only grandchild for 17 years, and she had this whole little story she was sharing.
Sure did.
And it was just so adorable. But so it's like, I don't know, when things like that change or begin to, those worlds open up, in the noticing that I walk through life with, I notice different reactions, to me as an individual, just from the meeting that you're speaking of, not just myself with myself, but myself with other beings, myself with, the trees. Of course, I've had a lot of, interaction with trees. And So I don't know why I went there. I felt nudged to go there, and now it's completely gone. So okay. Must have been all I needed to say.
Well, so part of what you described is you're giving a good pictorial of the fact that your transceivers and what you're transmitting and the clarity, the brilliance, the color spectrum, enhanced color spectrum has changed.
Okay.
And Lisa gave an example of it, although I didn't notice it because I'm just in, I'm already in it, so I can't go back to look at it. But when we first connected tonight, you made a comment about me, and it was something that you noticed, right? So again, it's that same kind of thing, and we're doing that. That's of that opening up worlds. Yeah. And the beauty of it is that you don't have to, what the hell is she talking about? You don't have to know. Because that's the moments that we're in. Helpful not to fight against it, helpful not to brush it aside. But you don't have to understand all of it because you have a knowing of it already. But it's not a linear, sequential, step-by-step kind of a thing.
Right.
And it does change everything. The ease and flow. So even if there was a particular thing that was happening that was really rough and choppy and frustrating and difficult and we'll say argumentative and whatever, just something. With this recent shift, the ease and flow has up-leveled tremendously. So if you have something that's, a kind of a crunchy situation, you might describe it, or something's going, you will notice even in that it's, it's may not dissipate the totality of that thing, but the ease and flow within it, so it could have been this, and it's much, much easier here. Still got that crunchiness, as described instead of soft and fluffy over here, right? Two different things. But, and it resolves or reworks itself and changes very, 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 very quickly.
Yes.
The good news is, although some may not have the perspective that this is a good news, that your creational force happens very, very quickly now. And so if there is an awareness and there isn't modulation of that, and there isn't 100% responsibility, accountability, and liability, it happens really fast. And you may not like it.
Well, yes, and I'd like to add something to that too, actually. For me, I feel like if I don't pay attention, if I don't use my focus and attention, because I feel like you're right, it's manifesting what you think about, speak about, whatever, I feel like is happening very quickly, right? And so if I don't, this is for me, if I'm not conscious, if I am not being conscious and aware of what I'm thinking or saying. And I slip back into whatever conditioning and programming. I just don't, I'm trying not to do that, because I find that happens quickly too. Creation is creation. And, you know, I know for a fact that I've wandered around on this planet for 56 years, creating willy-nilly without even really giving it a second thought. And so it's getting a little easier, but it's still not as easy yet as it will become for me as I continue the deprogramming of myself. But it's that conscious focus and attention on that which I prefer to create. And that includes just silly little, even just sayings or whatever, you know, that's just that pre-programmed automatic response kind of things that we've talked about before. For me, I want to pay very close attention to those things for myself, because sometimes it's just, you know, well, it's just the same. Well, is it just?
Yeah, what are you just saying?
And the energy behind it as well. And yeah, so.
So I'll give two, because someone said, well, can you give some examples? So I'll give two linear examples that happened today. So I was at work, and there's I've got an assistant set up, kind of a thing. So I was someplace at work, and I turned and looked at something, and I thought, oh, that would be really great if she could do that. But since from the linear aspect, that setup hasn't been working too good this week, I didn't bother to convey that in the linear form. And I had no animosity when I said that. I just was joyful, and I said, oh, that would be really great if she could do that. As if she was standing there, and I said that, and she said, okay, great. And maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes later, I was doing other stuff, and I came back. Hey, cool!
Nice.
You know, so, and it wasn't a thing that it would have been noticed. It was totally separate from where the other person was located. Nothing was, you know, signaled on my part from a linear perspective, but it was done. So that was one. And then with another, there was a little bit of there was a possibility to react to something in something that was frustration or consternation about something, and instead I chose to go, because I am aware how I can affect with my creation and create, you know, these energetic envelopes which are reality playing out, to hold a neutrality to it, to hold a 0 point, not go one way or the other, but just to hold, kind of look at both sides of it for a moment and just say, okay, I hold that and let it go. And in that instance, it was a phone call that was almost in response if I had had that conversation on the phone with this other person. And it was something along the lines of, well, you know, I was thinking, and I realized that you know, this happened and that happened, and so I'd like to do that instead. Would that work for you? And I said, yeah, that'd be cool. And it was, again, just, you know, haven't spoken to this person, didn't even, I wasn't thinking of the actual party. I was just thinking of the parts of the kind of folding. So that I bring those two because those are direct linear manifestations, materializations that came, that, you know, I was in the quantum and the energetic, and the linear beings were nowhere near me in either instance. And I did not pick up any kind of linear device in any instance, you know, short of, hey, you know, yelling across the road kind of a thing. Yet they manifested, materialized, and I got the sense, particularly with the second one, holding the 0 point was the key that manifested it in such a way that actually was an expansive moment for both, you know, concerned. So that's really important, because I mean, that's an example of what's happening right now that's very important, because again, it's that choosing, you know. Expansion is happening unless you jump off the planet right now, post haste. You know, that's what the thing is, and the frequencies are, you know, speeding up and expanding, and, you know, different ways you can hold that. So you can choose the easy, more flow way, conscious way, intentional way, 100% committed way, or not. And you will get feedback instantaneously. And then you'll get feedback on that instantaneously, because in that moment you will have, you know, and if you don't, whether you know it or not, understand it or not, believe it or not, it's okay, because it'll show up right for you. You're an expert, and you will expert yourself right now.
Yes, that's very true. The things that you were talking about showing up like that, you know, instantaneously, your experience there, that I feel like that is part of feeling a person, you know, feeling your new rhythm and the tools as well, because feeling into that. And even if you're not aware, I mean, it's that noticing that will help with the becoming aware of it. This has happened so much recently for us here in this household, where, you know, I'll be thinking something, and then either Lisa or Albert, it'll be tumbling out of their mouth the next thing I know, or I'll think of something, and maybe I'll want something, and I'm here at the house, and they'll show up with it, or, you know, things like that. Oh, well, we just had an instance not earlier this week where I had been thinking earlier, I think maybe you know, like a homemade Salisbury steak might be nice, you know, for dinner this evening, and gravy, you know, and whatnot. And Lisa asks Albert later on, what do you want for dinner? And he's looking in the refrigerator. Oh, steak and gravy. And there's no steak in the refrigerator. And she's like, where did that come from? They got no idea. I'm in the bathroom laughing my ass off because I know where it came from. It came right out of my head. So this is the kind of stuff that's going on. And if we're not paying attention and we're not noticing, and I would like to add in this, for me, giving voice to it, honoring it when it comes and shows up, because that just makes it more fun and begets more noticing, for me anyway.
Well, that's part of the proving, you know. Are you proving yourself? Are you paying attention? Because there's, you know, it's fun, it's expansive, but it's also that communication. And it's also that you're being asked to trust, and, you know, you are asking you to trust and be 100% committed, 100% responsible, liable, and accountable. And remember, I don't hold that as a punitive thing. That is a glorious thing. And It's cosmically delicious.
Yeah, I noticed. I'm sorry, BZ. I didn't mean to talk over you.
No.
I noticed something today.
What?
There was this huge, well, and it was very specific, and it was a meme that someone posted on Facebook that had something to do with, it's a good day when you haven't been responsible all day, or something like that. And remember, I think I showed it to you, Lisa.
Did you?
It came up. I know I mentioned something about it, but you might have missed it. But so yeah, you're right. I happened to notice. Well, yeah, there's a big connotation behind responsibility that that is programmed and conditioned, and liability too.
Mm-hmm.
And accountability, now that I think about it. All three of those words. And they're great words. They're words that we all, once we actually
we create by them. That's how great they are.
Yes, but so it's that little twist, that little spin, that little extra slice of programming and conditioning that went into that.
Yeah.
But I happened to see that today, and it really called that to my attention.
Yeah, so I'm going to play with that for a minute. So think of, if you're wanting to design a system that can keep growing and expanding, have more beings put in the system, more product in the system, more workers in the system, more slaves in the system, and you want it to be a self-perpetuating system that can keep expanding, but the support mechanisms needed involved don't have to exponentially expand with the expansion of the product, the inventory, storage space, all that kind of stuff, because that's what we all are in all of this from a linear perspective.
Wow.
Then you want to have things, and there's an underlying natural propensity for expansiveness, for wholeness, for creator beingness, for kick-ass creator being. So for your system, you gotta be kind of cunning and savvy in how you design this, because
thorough.
It keeps kind of exponentially going out, and so your system safeguards and logistics need to be set in such a way, right, to massage and manage what I'm talking about, especially those that, from maybe one's perspective over here, may not be, attributes that are desirable to the whole smoothly running functioning of this false construct system. Okay, and that would be the propensity for, kick-ass creative beingness. So you take one of the things that is it's okay, that's all right. I'll go with the word grandeur comes to mind. I don't know why, but okay, that was given to me. It's the grandeur of the energy frequency of the words of 100% responsible, liable, and accountable. Because that is part of what that creation tool is in its kind of plainest way. And as Sheila said, you twist it, and you have a proofing that you just gave, an example of, where someone comes home and says, a great day is a day I don't have to be responsible at all. Well, bravo is what's happening over here, that, hey, we got another one, and we've exponentially, and someone says that, and so, oh yeah, man, okay, great. And so as if something to aspire to. And the false construct, illusory irony to that is, yeah, it's another link on the chain, another nail in the coffin, another deadbolt in the lock. because it removes us from that. Of course, the beauty, so you can listen or hold or whatever I just said, and you can actually let it go, because the beauty of where we are right now, all that's gone. It's all gone. And inasmuch it is certain and real and materialized that it is all gone, it's an inside job. So for it to be gone for me or Lisa or Sheila or Keegan or any other being out there that you could name, or you name for yourself, say me if you're some other me, it's an inside job. And you meet that. And those are the worlds that open up. And it is sublimely delicious. It is amazing. It is, you haven't even thought of words that would even conjure. It's a frequency vibration that is orgasmically delicious, because it is so expansive and so rich and so colorful and so open-hearted and so full of streams of love and pure potential of the most amazing kinds. And you can mold and play with this, if you use it as clay, in every moment, in every instance. And you don't even have to wait but a few moments. You don't even need linear time increments. You can see proof that you could go over and touch. A bucket was full, many buckets were full, and now they're not. You can't get more tangible than that, especially when the buckets had manure in them and now they're empty. And there's a cosmic irony metaphor right there, if you ever saw one.
Well, I know that, well, no, I don't know anything now because it's gone. So I'm sorry about that. Apparently my mind just took a vacation.
Yeah.
Imagine my horror at times when the first time I had to say that. Yeah. It was a bit horrific over up in here for me when I had to say that, but I'm okay with it now.
Okay.
Well, do either one of you have anything else you'd like to add to this one? No? All right. Well, we will have all the usual things in all the usual places. And I would love to hear any questions that anyone might have, either to the email addresses that are always available in the Show More section or in the comments. So until next time.
Much love.